Okay. So from today onwards, we will be starting with the sessions of second semester, and I'll be taking human resource management. It's a generic core subject consisting of 3 credit. That means 50 marks internal will be there and 50 marks external exams will be there. So 50 plus 50. It's an external subject which is also called as generic core subject. So that we will be starting with today. So today being the first lecture, first we will just see the syllabus in today's session. If the time permit, then only we will be starting with the first chapter. Otherwise, we will go through the syllabus, what all we need to discuss or study in this human resource management subject. So chapter number 1, where we will be discussing the introduction to human resource management, that is definition of human resource management or objectives of human resource management, features, scope, challenges. Then we will also be discussing about what is SHRM. So first part consists of human resource management. Later on, there are some advances made in the field of human resource management. So what is the difference between human resource management and what is SHRM? SHRM means strategic human resource management. What was the need for a new, say, the change in the nomenclature of human resource management? Why it is called as strategic human resource management, that we will be discussing. How strategy got involved in human resource management, that we will be taking up for discussion when we will be discussing strategic human resource management. Then we will be discussing certain models of strategic human resource management. In those models, particularly, we will be discussing 2 models. One is called as Harvard model. So as the name itself suggests, as this model was developed by Harvard Business School, this model is called as Harvard model. So what is Harvard model of strategic human resource management, that we will be discussing. Then we will also be discussing another model which is called as matching model. How to match the organizational goals and individual goals in an organization so that the organization can move forward or organization can be made more and more profitable. The organization can grow continuously. That we will be discussing when we will be starting with the matching model. So that was related to chapter number 1. So this is all we will be discussing in chapter number 1. Now, chapter number 2 is related to HR acquisition and retention. HR means human resource, acquisition means recruitment, hiring, or procurement. All these terms indicate the same thing, and in simple words, we can call it recruitment. So, HR acquisition and retention. Retention, I hope that everyone knows what is the meaning of retention. Retention means that once a person is taken in for a particular job, once he is employed in an organization, how the organization can retain that individual, what are or what all should be the retention policies of an organization, that we will be taking up for discussion in chapter number 2. So under that, we will be talking about human resource planning. We will be talking about objective, need, importance of human resource planning. Then what is the process of human resource? What are the barriers to human resource planning? Now, for barriers, we should understand that human resource is a live resource. We are dealing with human beings. So there may come some barriers which the human resource department or the HR manager has to overcome. So what these barriers are, that we will be taking up for discussion, because there cannot be one best model for working which can be followed by all the organizations. There is a saying, one size fits all. That means you prepare a cloth of one size and that will fit everyone. So as that is not possible, it is not possible that somebody, some expert prepares a particular model of working in an organization, and that model is to be followed by each and every organization, and every organization will progress if they follow this model. Now these are the barriers to human resource management, human resource planning, because the HR manager or the organization is dealing with human beings, live people, not machines. When you are planning for machines, then yes, of course, you can plan for machines. There can be a single, say, a module which can be followed by various organizations, that how to plan for machines. But when it comes to how to plan for human beings, every organization has to think differently, because each and every individual is different from each another. The individuals in a particular organization may be different from the individuals of another organization. That is why various barriers comes in the way of human resource department when they are planning for when they are doing human resource planning, that how many people will be required for next 1 month, or for next 6 months, or for next 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year in an organization or in a particular department. At which positions they need to do recruitment, whether they will be required to do recruitment at managerial level, at supervisory level, or at workers level, because no one is sure that whether a person who has been given employment in an organization will stick to the organization for a period of 1 year, 2 year, or 5 years, or more than that. If a person gets a better opportunity, if he is not satisfied with the working conditions in an organization, that person may leave the organization. And that is the barrier for human resource planning. So that we will be discussing when we will be taking up with chapter number 2. Then we will also be talking about what is job description, what is job specification, what is job design, what are the various factors which affect job design, job enrichment, and job enlargement. Now, in brief, I'll update you about what is job enrichment and what is job enlargement. Job enrichment means when job of a particular person is made interesting or challenging, where the person enjoys doing the job, that concept is called as job enrichment. So job enrichment is a technique where the existing job of a particular employee is made more interesting, is made more challenging, where the existing employee feels that yes, he can apply his knowledge in the job, he can apply his abilities or skills in the job. That is called as job enrichment. When we talk about job enlargement, in simple words, job enlargement means when we increase the responsibilities of a particular job. Suppose if an employee is working in an organization and he is having two responsibilities, if one more responsibility is added to his job, then that particular concept is called as job enlargement. So that is the difference between job enrichment and enlargement. In detail, we will be taking up for discussion when we will be dealing with chapter number 2. Then we will be talking about recruitment. What are the various sources of recruitment? What is the difference between recruitment and selection? That we will be taking up for discussion. So in brief, again, I'll give you a difference between recruitment and selection. Generally, we use these two words for same thing, that is called as hiring or recruitment. So in general, we talk about that the employees in an organization are recruited or employees in an organization are selected. So both, if we talk about in general terms, we feel that the meaning is same. But from the point of view of human resource management, the meaning of these two terms are different. Recruitment, the meaning is different from the term selection. That simple difference is that for recruitment, or recruitment means calling for applications, calling for applications from suitable candidates for a probable position in an organization. That is the meaning of recruitment. So recruitment means that when applications are called by an organization for a vacant position, that is recruitment. So recruitment का मतलब क्या है कि जब एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में वेकेंसी है, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एडवर्टाइज निकालती है कि इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, इस डिपार्टमेंट में ये पोजीशन की वैकेंसी है, और उस वैकेंसी पर, उस इंफॉर्मेशन पर, उस एडवर्टाइजमेंट पर जब जो सूटेबल कैंडिडेट है वो अप्लाई करते हैं, एप्लीकेशन तक के प्रोसेस को रिक्रूटमेंट कहा जाता है. तो रिक्रूटमेंट एंड्स विथ द एप्लीकेशन received, when the application is received by an organization. So that is where the recruitment ends and selection starts. So selection is a procedure which starts from the organization of various tests for selecting an employee in an organization. अगर मुझे किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में अप्लाई करना है, मैंने ऐड देखी, मैंने एप्लीकेशन किया, मेरी एप्लीकेशन रिसीव हो गई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, वहां पर रिक्रूटमेंट खत्म हो गया. जब मेरा इंटरव्यू होगा, जब मेरा साइकोलॉजिकल टेस्ट होगा, जब मेरा एप्टीट्यूड टेस्ट होगा, जब मेरा ग्रुप डिस्कशन होगा, ऑल दिस प्रोसेस विल कम अंडर नॉट रिक्रूटमेंट बट दे विल कम अंडर सिलेक्शन. So that is the basic difference between recruitment and selection. In case If you have any query, please stop me and you can raise your query. I hope that I am audible to all.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In case of any doubt, please stop me. In case I'm going very fast, please let me know that, sir, you are going too fast. So please. Now, the next one is sources of recruitment and difference between recruitment and selection. Then what is selection process? Now, what is induction and orientation? That we will be taking up for discussion, that what is career planning and what is succession planning. Now, before we move further, there is a difference between two terms that is called as career planning and succession planning. So career planning, when a person plans for his or her career, that is called as career planning. Very simple. Now, succession planning is different from career planning. Career planning is there at the level, whereas the person at the highest level can also plan his career. So it is the prime responsibility or primary responsibility of career planning lies with a particular employee. If it is my should plan my career, been selected in an organization, or I have joined an organization as a HR trainee. Now, after 2 years, I want to see myself as junior HR executive or HR executive. After 2-3 years, I want to see myself at this particular position. So this is how a person can plan his career. And for reaching that position, what type of tests or what type of hard work or what type of punctuality or what type of work expectations are there, that is to be met by an employee. Then only he can plan his career. So that is related to individual career planning. Now, the next concept we will be discussing is called as succession planning. Yes, succession planning. Can anyone tell me what is succession planning? What is succession planning? You can unmute yourself and you can answer the question. What is succession planning? Okay, succession planning is different from career planning, as we have seen that for career planning, individual person is responsible for planning of his career, but succession planning is different. And succession planning means when planning is done for the topmost position of an organization, that planning is called as succession planning. For example, when an organization plans for the position of, say, general manager, that planning is succession plan. Now, every organization, whether it is a small organization, large organization, or multinational organization, every organization plans succession planning. For example, as we have already discussed, that we are dealing with human resource, which is very, very dynamic in nature, which is changing in nature. You cannot guarantee that the general manager who has been promoted in the organization to the position of general manager on 1st of January 2021 will be there with the organization for next 5 years. No one can guarantee that. Now, for example, the general manager who is handling the organization very well, he is doing everything very well, he is planning well, he is controlling well, he is motivating well, he is directing the staff very well. So organization is progressing under his leadership. But one day that general manager meets with an accident and he is hospitalized for a period of, say, more than 2 months. Now he is advised to take bed rest and he cannot work for the organization. For a period of 2 months, the organization is unable to take crucial decision because the person who used to take these crucial decision is not there in the organization for more than 2 months. Now, for this particular reason, the organization will suffer adversely. The organization will be in losses. Now, to avoid these losses, every organization plans succession, that who will succeed the existing topmost position of the company. It is not done for each and every position, but it is done only for the topmost position. If the general manager is not there in the organization, tomorrow, who will succeed the general manager? Now, why this planning is done? Just to avoid losses for the organization. In the previous example, we have seen that the general manager who was doing his job very well meets with an accident and now he is unable to continue office for a period of more than 2 months. Now, if the organization here had made a succession planning, they had, suppose they had groomed a senior manager, they had made the senior manager known what are the responsibilities of general manager, how the general manager works, what are his functions, what are his authorities, what are his responsibilities. If everything is known to the existing senior manager, then immediately senior manager, for a time being of say 2 months or 3 months, till that existing general manager joins his duties, he can take over and he can avoid the losses for the organization. Crucial decisions can be taken by this senior manager because he is aware of role and responsibilities of the position of general manager. So this is what succession planning is. So people are groomed. Now, since ancient times in our country, this particular concept is existent. Now, when, suppose in the days when the country was ruled by kings, used to be there and they used to be the ruler of their kingdom. They used to rule the kingdom. Now, of the king, the king, and at most times, the eldest son of the king used to be his successor. Now, king, before handing over the kingdom to the prince, to his eldest son, he used to name that he will be the next king, as well as he used to groom his son about how to rule the country, how to rule that particular. He used to always accompany his son, that you need to sit in the darbar, you need to see the proceedings of the darbar, how the king works, how the king is taking decisions, everything the successor prince used to observe, so that when king is no more, and he wants to make the son as a next king of that particular country, then he used to easily take over the reigns of the king. So that is called as succession planning. So succession planning, please remember, it is done for the topmost positions of the company. It is not done for the lower level positions of the company. So that we will be taking up for discussion in detail when we will be talking about chapter number 2. Then on the process of succession planning, then transfer, promotion, retention of employees. Now again, now this particular concept is very important, and that is called as retention. Retention of employees, then retention strategies. That is very important. Retention means to retain a employee who has been employed in an organization. How to retain an employee and why to retain an employee. First, we will discuss why to retain employee. Earlier, there was no concept of retention. This particular concept of retention came into existence from Japanese companies. Japanese companies were the first companies which practiced this idea of. In India, the concept was not in existence, because in those days before 1970, in those days, it was believed that if a person is not producing well, or his output is not up to the mark, the solution was remove that person and employ a new person. But after 1970s, things changed. The world saw the progress or the success of Japanese companies, and it was studied that why the Japanese companies are succeeding more than the American or other countries, because America was the superpower at that time. So instead of American companies, more progress was made by Japanese companies, and it was realized that one of the important factor for the success of Japanese companies is their retention strategies. And then this particular concept started coming into practice. And then Indian companies also started practicing this particular concept. Now, retention. Retention means once an employee is employed in an organization, what efforts the company is making to retain that person, to convince that person that this is the best organization for you and you should not leave this organization. So that thing is called as retention. Now, why retention? Because as and when the competition among the organization started. Earlier, there was a concept of monopoly. Only one organization is making or manufacturing a particular product. So that organization used to have monopoly in that particular area. Later on, when the competition between organizations started, then it was realized that retention plays a very important role. The organization is, say, doing too much of expenses when they are recruiting people, when they are hiring people. So the organization should see to it that the person who has been recruited should stick to the organization over a period of longer time, so that the organization can make profit out of that person. Now, for recruiting a person or for training a person, if the organization is spending, say, 1 to 2 lakh rupees per individual, after training a particular person, once he is now perfectly trained, what is expected? It is expected that the person should make contribute to the profits of the organization. But instead of contributing to the profits of the organization, if the person, after getting trained in the organization at the expenses of the organization, if the person decides to leave the organization, then it will be a loss of 1 to 2 lakh rupees for the organization. So to avoid these losses, various retention techniques, various retention programs have been introduced by the organization. What these retention techniques are, that we will be discussing when we will be taking up for the discussion of these topics. And then now we will move on to chapter number 3. Now, chapter number 3 is related to employee performance and training. Now, in chapter number 3, we will be discussing performance appraisal and performance management. Now, again, two different terms. In brief, let me tell you, performance appraisal is appraising or evaluating the performance of an individual for last 6 months or for last 1 year. So in simple words, it is evaluation of an employee's past performance. Whereas performance management is that how you are managing the performance of the employee at present. So performance management is at present, whereas performance appraisal is generally done for the past activities or past performance. पिछले परफॉर्मेंस के बेस पे जो इवैल्यूएशन होता है, दैट इज परफॉर्मेंस अप्रेजल. आज उसका परफॉर्मेंस कैसा है, आज से बेटर उसका परफॉर्मेंस कल कैसे हो सकता है, दैट इज परफॉर्मेंस मैनेजमेंट. In detail, we will be discussing when we will be taking up for chapter number 3. Now, there we will be talking about definition, objective, importance, and appraisal process, appraisal methods. Various methods of performance appraisals are there. There we will be discussing that how performance of an employee is evaluated, is checked, or is say evaluated. So there are modern methods of performance evaluation. There are certain traditional methods of evaluation. Most of or all the multinational companies, as well as the large scale companies, they have realized the benefits of modern methods of performance evaluation. So they are following these modern methods of evaluation. But when we talk about the small scale sectors, small companies, which falls under micro companies or small companies, now most of these companies are still evaluating the performance of their employee on the basis of traditional methods. So what are the benefits of traditional method? What are the various traditional methods of performance appraisal? That we will be discussing under various methods of performance appraisal, as well as we will also be discussing what are the modern methods which are commonly used by large and multinational companies, that we will be discussing. Then we will be taking up for discussion training and development. Now again, there is difference between training and development. The most common difference is that training is generally given to people who are at the lower level of the organization. Development programs are organized for the people generally who are in managerial category. In detail, we will be discussing when we will talk about training and development. Then we will be talking about training and development process, training need assessment, types of training, difference between training and development, what is e-learning. Nowadays, e-learning is in demand, or it is, say, need of the hour also. So what, now this particular session can be called as e-learning session. So physically students are not present in the class, teacher is not there in the class, but still learning is going on. So that is a part of e-learning, how e-learning can be done for training the employees, that we will be discussing. Then we will be talking about benefits of training. We will also be talking about the effectiveness of training, and we will be taking up for a discussion a Kirkpatrick model, very famous model of training, which was introduced by Kirkpatrick, that we will be taking up for discussion, that what is that model of training. So that was related to chapter number 3. Now we will move on to what we will be taking up for discussion in chapter number 4. So chapter number 4 is related to compensation management, where we will be talking about concepts, objectives, importance of compensation. Now here, the compensation means the salary or the remuneration which is provided to the employees for their efforts put in the organization. If a person is working as an accountant in the organization, so he is putting his effort for the organization, for the benefit of the organization. And in return, the organization is supposed to pay him a remuneration, pay him a salary. So that salary or remuneration is called as compensation. So in compensation management, we will be discussing the process, current trends in compensation. What are the current trends in compensation? Now, you might be knowing that apart from regular salary, certain incentives or certain benefits are given to the employees. Now, why these incentives or benefits are given to the employee? Now, these are all given to the employee to motivate the employee, to motivate him for better work. Now, suppose an employee is given, say, a salary of 20,000. And if that employee achieves the target, and company is having a policy that they will be providing additional benefit or incentive of 5,000 per month for a period of 1 year because the employee has achieved that particular target. Now, this can be called as a motivating force for the employee. Next year, the employee may put more efforts because he knows that if he achieves the target, if he does well, the organization is supporting him with better salary, better package, better incentives. So that's all we will be discussing when we will be taking up for compensation management. We will be discussing the difference between wage and salary. The simple difference between wage and salary is these are two different terms. Wage is generally given for daily basis worker or for weekly workers on weekly basis to workers or for fortnightly basis to worker. And salary is given to people who are working in an organization for a period of 1 month. So महीने के बाद जो मिलेगी वो सैलरी, दिहाड़ी जो मिलेगी वो वेज, 15 दिन के बाद जो मिलेगी that is again called as wage. Now then we will also be talking about components of salary. We will talk about incentives and benefits. We will talk about financial and non-financial incentives. It is not that every time the company should come up with the idea of financial institute, that if a person achieves the target, every time it is not possible for the company to increase the salary of the person. That is, monetary incentive is every time not possible. But non-monetary incentive can also be given. Non-monetary means that the entire family of the person can be given a holiday package in a hill station for a period of say 7 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 10 days. So that can be covered under non-monetary. The person can be promoted to the next level instead of raising his package or salary. So his position is increased. Again, it can be called as the non-monetary incentive for the person. Then we will be talking about employee separation. Now again, this is again a very important concept. Separation means when you are separating the employee from an organization. That means when you are say terminating the job of an employee, you are discharging the employee, or when the employee is retiring from the organization. So for that, we will be discussing the retirement, what is retirement, what is termination, what is VRS, that is a voluntary retirement scheme. We will also be talking about what is golden handshake concept. We will talk about what is suspension. We will talk about the concepts and methods of grievance process in the Indian industry. So grievance process, there we will be talking about that in case if a person wants to raise a complaint, an employee wants to raise a complaint against another employee or against any of the official in the organization, what should be the procedure? The employee in advance should be aware of that. So that procedure is called as grievance handling procedure. Grievance means complaint. Complaint in written form. When an employee makes a written complaint against another employee or against official related to the working conditions or work related matter, that complaint is called as grievance. Now, how this grievance is to be handled, for that there is a provision that in every organization, grievance handling machinery or grievance handling mechanism should be available. That in case of grievance, who is the first authority who will be settling that grievance? If that authority is unable to settle that grievance, who is the next authority to settle that grievance? If that authority too fails to settle that grievance, who will be the next authority and who will be the final authority for settlement of grievance? So that again we will be discussing, because if complaints will be there in the organization, that means the organization, the employees will not be able to give their 100%. And if they are not giving their 100%, it is not profitable for the organization. So how to handle those grievances, how to settle those grievances at the earliest, that provision we will be discussing. Next, under chapter number 5, we will be talking about emerging trends in human resource management. Under that, we will be talking about human resource accounting processes. And then we will be talking about the need and advantages of human resource accounting processes. Then we will be talking about the concepts, objectives, the advantages, limitations, and methods. We will also be talking about HR audits, as well as the HR shared services. We will be talking about the concept, objective, benefits, issues of creating HR shared services. Now, HR shared services, as the name itself says, shared services. Now, this is related to the business, BPO's business process outsourcing, or KPOs, knowledge process outsourcing. Now, earlier, what used to happen, in brief, I'll let you know what is the meaning of HR shared services. Previously, each and every organization used to think that all the data which is available in the organization is secret, is not to be shared with anyone outside the organization. So जितना भी डेटा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जमा है, जितना भी डेटा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के पास है, वो सारा की सारा डेटा सीक्रेट है, और वो उसमें से कुछ भी बाहर नहीं जाना चाहिए. Belief of the person, of the organization earlier. Now, with the introduction of the concept of BPOs and KPOs, now many organizations have started some part as outsourcing, for outsourcing to the third parties. So these outsourcing of some processes is called as HR shared services. Now, many organizations have realized that recruitment process, where releasing, calling for the application from the suitable candidates, then scrutiny of the candidates, acceptance and rejections of applications, all these processes are not so productive processes, and they involve the organization as well as of the managers of the organization. Is they have started outsourcing these processes to some third party. You select the suitable candidate, you conduct the primary interview, you select conducting the final test or final interview or final selection. So that will save our time, that will save our money. So because of this, now the processes, certain processes which the organization feels that these processes are not very important or not very productive, So these can be shared with the third parties. So those that is called as HR shared services. What in detail we will be discussing when we will be taking up our chapter number 5. So this all was related to uh, of human resource management. From tomorrow onwards at 6 p.m. when uh, we will be starting with our first chapter, that is human resource management. So far, if you have not understood anything, or if you have any query, if you have any doubt, you can ask, please. Yes, any doubt so far? We have discussed.
No, sir. Yes.
No. Okay, very good. So as only 5 minutes are remaining, we will not be starting with the first chapter. What we will do is we will stop here, and tomorrow when we will meet, we will start with the first chapter of the human resource management. Again, the same request, please come prepared. If you come prepared, there will be more discussions, there will be more queries, there will be more questions, there will be more confusions. It will be better for you, it will be better for me also, because in human resource management it is believed, or in general management also it is believed, that if challenges are not involved in the job becomes monotonous. Same is the case with teaching also. The teacher will be motivated to read more and more if more and more queries are asked by the students. Otherwise, what will happen? We all are human beings. If no queries are asked, the teacher is not going to read more things. I will also feel relaxed. Okay, whatever I'm teaching is absolutely correct, is understood by each and every student. So no scope for further reading. But if more and more questions are asked to the teacher, and teacher also feels, yes, now the students have started asking more questions, so I need to upgrade myself, I need to study more. So please remember, it is beneficial for both the sides, teachers as well as for students also, and you will be able to learn more through discussion. So before ending, let me share a statistics. I or you might be aware of that statistics also, that various studies have been made for the best possible way of say lectures, or how people understands what is the best method where we can say that people understand in a better manner. So lecture method comes to the last stage, where it is believed that if learning is done through lecture method, then as we all are human beings, then for first 10 to 15 minutes the participants are active, and they can understand whatever is being taught in the class. After that, if nothing is there and everything goes over the head, so that is the disadvantage of the lecture method, because we all are human beings. In your place, suppose today also, when we are going for different say faculty development programs, and we are supposed to attend various lectures, same thing happens to us also. For first 10-15 minutes, if lecture method is there, we can understand everything. After 10 minutes or 15 minutes, we are unable to understand, because we all are human beings. Our mind is having certain capacities of concentration. It can concentrate for 10-15 minutes. After that, it is unable to concentrate. Then what should be the another method? So various other methods were also introduced, and it is realized that interaction is one of the best method, where both the trainer as well as the trainee the teacher as well as the students, the participant as well as the conductor, both can learn more is with the help of interaction. When a person is interacting, his mind is more concentrated. But when a person is a passive listener, just listening, then after certain time, the concentration starts declining. But when the person is interacting, that means the person is actively involved in the session. When he or she is actively involved, the mind is more concentrated. सो कंसंट्रेशन का जो स्पैन है वो बढ़ जाता है अगर इंटरेक्शन होता है, अगर क्वेश्चंस रेज होते हैं दोनों के लिए, अदरवाइज दोनों के लिए ही थोड़ा कम 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 होता जाता है. तो प्लीज रिमेंबर दैट, कम प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर द फर्स्ट सेशन, go through the syllabus and read. Enough material is there on the web, Google. You can read with the help of Google. Ebooks are available. You can read from the ebooks also. So come prepared from tomorrow onwards. If there are more discussion, it will be more interesting, it will be more interactive, and there will be more learning for you and for me also. Okay, so thank you for joining today's session. We will stop here, and tomorrow again we will meet at same time 6 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.